Hello everyone, I am Stephen Drew from the Architecture Social, and I'm back from moving my house, my furniture, and we're going to continue with the podcast, but I'm joined here today by an awesome guest that I've known for over the last year. We've had an interesting journey, and I've admired his work on Instagram in particular, and excited for the next part of his journey. Gabriel Chek, how are you, my friend? You okay?
Hey Stephen, how are you? I'm good.
Yeah, I'm living the dream. You can see so this will be audio only, but imagine if you hear listeners, I'm in my new room, it's all getting there, and Gabriel's got some exciting stuff to talk about his career as well. But for anyone, first of all, that's never heard of or seen the stuff that you've done online, I think it's important to talk about your roots, where you come from in architecture. So, Gabriel, tell us a little bit about your journey so far and what brought you up to set up ArchLoggers.
Yeah, just a little bit about myself. I am a Singaporean-based architectural designer. So I've been working about almost 2 years already. And I graduated from the Singapore University of Technology Design. It's specializing in architecture and sustainable design. So ever since then, I actually currently working in a local firm which deals with military buildings.
Wow.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that I do really enjoy what I'm doing right now in my day job. And I always wondered, how can I share this knowledge that I've gained? Like, I've learned so much regarding like the practice of architecture, like even the technical details. So all of this stuff I never get to learn in school per se, but throughout my job, I've learned so much, and I really want to share this with the community. So I was wondering just to play a bit with social media, and that's how I started ArchLoggers. It was the very first venture. Actually, before that, I had a lot of blogs, failed blogs, design blogs, sort of like ventures, but it's mini ventures that got me started with like blogging and HTML design, stuff like that. So it progressed into a curiosity of sorts. I've always chased that sense of newness in my journey, in life especially. And to try something new all the time. And that's how ArchLoggers began. It became like a experiment or a project of mine that I do on the side after work, in the weekends, just to use my... that time I used Figma. So Figma is currently one of the best ways to use vector images for architectural drawings and post it on Instagram in a bite-sized format. So I wanted to share these technical details at the start, just for the fun of it. There's no expectations there whatsoever.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I quite like. I thought it was very tasteful. I do think you're like the king of graphic design on Instagram, and I really do like the way that you manage to summarize, tricky architectural problems in a bite-sized way of digesting that information. So for anyone that hasn't checked out the ArchLog book, you can find what we're talking about here on Instagram. But before we go ahead with that, I find it interesting. You talked about you're in industry now. You're a madman, I guess, like me, where we do this outside of the time we work, which is like extremely demanding. So you do work currently at the moment. You still doing military buildings, did you say?
Yeah, I'm still doing it.
Wow, that's super cool. That's like James Bond or something, isn't it? So you probably can't talk much about those, right? Because they got non-disclosure agreements.
That's correct. Yeah, you gotta kill me if I do.
Yeah, exactly. Someone's just gonna there's gonna be like a red mark which appears on my head, and I'll be sniped as well as you are. But sure. There's a very interesting type of work, isn't it? So let's not talk about the specifics there, but I imagine a lot of it. These are public buildings. They're going to be worn down and used, and battered, and so a lot. I suppose it's a great sector for you to work on, because you learn a lot, and I imagine it's quite technical as well. I mean, can you give me a flavor of the roles and responsibilities you worked on in industry on these like military roles? You don't have to say where they are or anything, but imagine. Oh, my phone's going off again,
Your
isn't
work phone
it?
is taken.
My phone's going off. See, this is the problem, isn't it? There we go. 1 second, we turn it off.
No
Do
worries.
you reckon it's Do you reckon it's Mission Impossible ringing me up because I'm talking about the military bases? There we go. There we go. I turned it off. We'll keep it. We keep all this in. That's how I roll. So there you go. The
Yeah,
government.
sure.
The government is not calling me anymore. But I guess what I'm trying to say is these projects must have been demanding. And so were they like the passion for is that where art bloggers came from, or doing all the complicated technical problems on your projects and you wanted to kind of explore that idea on Instagram?
Not exactly. So I think what I can just give a little brief of what I do without spoiling the location or what any secret stuff that I
without
cannot
getting
share.
me killed. Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's a part of architecture that we don't really get to learn about in school. Because in school we learn about like social buildings, like shopping malls, even housing. We don't get to learn like industrial buildings, like factories, stuff like that. So a lot of storage requirements. Technical requirements like include, like for example, storage of like flammable materials. How do you do it, and even special substances or whatsoever, so kind of thing. So they all have different. It's a different branch of architecture, and it's also equally important, I think, as compared to housing. There's a lot of requirements to be followed. So it's kind of like the same idea of following the constraints. As a designer and architect, right, we have to learn how to navigate through these constraints, to be creative and innovative with ideas, but also have the artistic flair as well in a factory. So sometimes you don't see factories as beautiful buildings, but I think once you understand and truly understand the layout of the building and how it complements the routines of the people very well, I think that is a good architecture itself.
Yeah, I think I like what you're saying. I mean, in terms of architectural recruitment, in my day job, I work with one or two great companies who do stuff like data centers. And so it's a similar thing to military, where some of them can be super cool, super beautiful, but no one typically thinks of like, wow, I am going to design a data center, or I'm going to graduate and do military complexes, but they're really, really important. So that's quite cool. And so we'll leave that aside so that I don't get another call from MI6 ringing up. But so that's your day job. And so in the evening, you set up Arc Logbook. So if we go back, if you think like back to the start, there's always that moment where you think, oh, I'm going to experiment and set something up. So do you want to let me know about what that time frame was and why you wanted to do the art? You touched upon it briefly, but what made you go, I'm going to set up this Instagram and post all the ideas I have?
Yeah, sure. So I think it was June, about 2 years ago in June,
Wow.
I started this thing. I think so basically my day job has gotten me to be like balls deep into this industry that I didn't know about, and the things that actually, the funny thing is that some of these buildings are very special to the fact that they can't comply with certain requirements, and we had to seek waivers for it. So that all these things test my ability in interpreting the building code, for example. So I always wish that there was someone to guide me along that first year of my day job journey. And so that also got me thinking like, how can I actually help other people, not to be too stressed out as I was. A lot of things that we all get into, especially the first 3 months of the job is the most important, and there's so much to learn, right? And it gets overwhelming. So in that sense, part of it was me to wanting to share something. Part of me was actually to experiment graphic design and just I'm a bit too free sometimes as well. So I do spend some time to just do things that I like to do. I think it was just a little inkling of sort. I didn't really had a big vision in mind to like grow. I didn't have to grow 20k followers. No, it wasn't like that sense. And I think throughout the journey, there's a lot of things I've learned, and then I bring it forward to my next venture.
Yeah, I think the theme of the stuff you do is that I think it's you clearly the Arc Logbook is very helpful to a lot of people, and I think that synergy goes through everything that you've done. And so one of the reasons that we actually met at the time is because what I admire, and I can see why you and Sana get along really well, is because I always look at what you do, in particular with Sana, and you're creating content, you're doing stuff. And so Sana runs Scale, and you set up the Arc Logbook, and you were together on the MadCon, which is just finished, which is great. And we'll touch upon that in a bit. But the reason me and you met, bizarrely, was because at the time you ran a Mighty Network when I was setting up the Architecture Social. And that was one aspect of your community. And what I find interesting is we will talk as well about the course that you're doing at the moment. But it's a really... And what I like is with yourself, I love the experimentation, and I love the fact that you are really open about change as well. So do you want to let me know about, at the time, why you set up a community, and now you've actually turned that off, and now you're building a different community? Do you want to let me know about your journey? Because it's great.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
I do. I'm trying to think back of... So basically, I do break down the seasons of posting for Art Logbook. So if you really are a super fan of Art Logbook, you will notice that there are 4 seasons of posting. And and the first season was very rudimentary, very simple diagrams, a bit ugly at the start, looking back. But I thought it was pretty cool at that point in time. But anyways, point is, I always love how I'm trying to experiment, like what you said, like tweaking things a little bit, playing with the fonts, playing with the way I write the captions. All these things are what make me who I am today. Basically, being not afraid to change and try something new.
Yeah.
To be courageous in terms of not worrying about what people think, basically. And I think my sole vision was to actually enjoy myself through the process. That's the number one priority.
Yeah.
And that also was the main reason why I took a hiatus for Art Logbook, because I felt that I was just stuck under the content wheel for a little bit, and I didn't really get that pleasure in a way to in a very simple form is pleasure to me as well, to be able to share something. But I think towards like at the end of last year, 2020, I was a bit contemplating between how can I move forward with Art Logbook, or should I pursue something a bit different, but still tap on what I've learned for Art Logbook?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? And we this is probably the first time we've spoken for a while, but online I've always seen you doing bits and bobs, and I was quite impressed with the hiatus, because it takes a lot of guts to talk about it openly. And one of the things that I've learned, and I think hopefully students as well learn, is that it's really hard to like engage and teach people if, for instance, unfortunately, there's always a monetary aspect into it, but there's also the bigger thing, I think, is commitment. And what I think is that you can't really, there's only so much you can do with an Instagram. It's amazing what you've done, but your mission is to kind of help people and to build upon that relationship. And I think that there's only so much you can do, isn't there, without a commitment and accountability from both parties. And to actually hit that and be upfront and talk about it online, I thought was great. And so what's interesting about what you're doing at the moment, it seems that now you've coming up with your course, and you're actually, there's more commitment from both parties, because you're saying like, hey, I will actually help you and do what I can. But it's very different. You've got to sign up to this element. There's a commitment from both parties, and it's very different than your Instagram. So do you want to let everyone know your current exciting adventure at the moment then? Should we talk about why you changed? I think this is the important bit. Why you put a little bit of a stop on the Instagram, and what's interesting about what you're doing now. That would be great if we can talk about that a bit.
Definitely. So in terms of the shift, I think I also mentioned it in the goodbye post of Art Logbook. Yes, it's very detailed over there. But in summary, it's just about the shift from the technical documentation aspect of Art Logbook to the clarity and confidence of young architects. actually there's some sort of link as well, because being confident technically is also one of the aspects that I will cover in the courses as well. And when I break it down, like clarity and confidence, I actually started this whole conversation at MacCon, and we should talk about it later. And anyways, the whole idea about it is actually clarity can be broken down into 3 different aspects. One is personal clarity, there's career clarity, and what's the last one? Oh yeah, life clarity. Yeah, and then there's confidence.
Wow, life clarity. Maybe I should sign up as well, because it can get confusing at times, can't it?
Yeah, and confidence in terms of like emotional confidence, social confidence, and technical confidence. So the cool thing about these 2 things, clarity and confidence, is actually dynamic, and we can strive towards it. It's not static. And that's what I discovered through my whole journey, even the book, like being clear in what I want to do with my own career and my own life, and also being confident about it. And I want to share, it's kind of like a mixed mash of like my own personal life, my own work life, and what I'm doing book, all meshed into one little guide to young architects who really benefit from such guidance, I feel. And I think the whole mission of me shifting from technical documentation to this whole new frontier of online courses, memberships, workshops, and even conversations with others, being on camera more, is also part of my journey as well, to be more exposed and to be more vulnerable to the community. So I do see multiple benefits. May not be apparent now to me, but I think in the long run, I will definitely thank my past self to say, yes, I want to try something new and to push forward. I think the whole idea of impact drives me to push on and to try new things.
Yeah, I think, look, it's really great. And what's interesting about this, and I'll kind of resonate as well. So I haven't seen the course per se, but when I think of confidence and clarity, I think it's really smart. And what I think is interesting is that there are kind of 2 aspects, aren't there, to anyone's careers? As you mentioned, there's the technical aspects, but then there's the fact that we're all people, and as designers, you have to like learn, experiment, and confidence is such a big theme, and clarity is very interesting concept. Even so, in terms of looking for jobs or where are you going with your career, finding clarity is exceptionally difficult, and I think that lots and lots of real life challenges can it can make you feel unclear where you're going, and so I mean, I remember when I was a part 1 and part 2. When I was a part 1 in the UK, it was the global recession, and at the time I felt very unconfident about finding the job. I wasn't very clear about what to do, and that aspect of what you're talking about would have been really, really helpful. It wasn't so much at the time about my technical understanding. It was just about where am I going. And so I can see why it would be useful to a lot of students. So does this mean now then, so is the Arclog book permanently on hiatus? So what are we going to see at the moment? Are we going to see, right now you're setting up the course, and so I'll probably put out this podcast in a week's time. But what I mean is, so is it right now you're building up your first studio or your first cohort? That's the word, isn't it? It's your first wave of students. Is that the next part of the goal?
I'm going to be very honest with you. So initially I thought people will pay for it, but I think currently it's not the case. So what I actually did was to limit the free memberships to 25 people. So I did manage to get that 25 people right now.
Great.
And my objective is to actually start like workshops or so. So also giving them access to free workshops, but also opening up to people later on. So those who are not in the membership now can actually join these workshops live, and for me to share all the concepts that I do share in the membership portal as well. It's also about, I'm also preparing a lot of, on the course portal, there's a lot of articles, monthly articles, and very short and simple analogies to get them started about thinking about clarity and confidence. And I feel that it's not really often said, especially in the context of architecture designers and students. So I wanted to bring that perspective that not many people may have. And I think it's very interesting to see how these things will go, because every month I'll focus on a certain aspect of clarity and confidence. So people can sign up for the workshops, and even if they're not members about the community. So I also, it's open. So I think at the start, it will be a very affordable price, I guess. So it's more of exposure for me also to be comfortable in conducting such workshops.
Yeah.
And also to get the trust of the community, and to see that I know Gabriel is talking, he knows what he's talking about, basically.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. So, I mean, newsflash for anyone, you want to kind of get in now, get in while it's good. So I'll put my bell on there. So come on. Yeah, now's the time. The prices go up later. That's pretty cool. And look, what I will resonate on with this is that I get a lot of people even talking to me about mentoring, and it's something I definitely consider. The tricky bit for me is that I work full time in my job during the day, and I get a lot of messages, and it's really hard to kind of give people enough time and attention. And that's why, for instance, at the moment, every Tuesday, I'm kind of doing a little workshop online, but that's one of the ways that I'm able to hopefully provide a bit of content that is useful to most people. But, you know, the truth is, for anyone listening, actually one-on-one, which I would love to do, is extremely time consuming. And I think that here is a nice balance on what you're talking about with a course, where it's a number of people which go through series of stages, you build up all this content and they learn. And I think that's kind of like a happy focus. But the bit that I'm learning as well with yourself is that really, and I think everyone has to bear this in mind, is that if you're looking for someone to be fully accountable for your career, then there needs to be some financial responsibility in there. As in, I think that you can look at all these courses online, and that's amazing. And the thing is, I say with me, is that right now, I mean, I'm working, so it's different. But say now, if anything changed in the future, or God knows what else, the thing is if you want someone really accountable for your career, it's like someone in a personal gym, right? If you want me to, I mean, I'm sure you feel the same. If you need someone to kind of mentor someone on, then they have to be fully invested. And a personal trainer is a bit like that. And that's the bit that you get when you get someone on board like yourself, or a mentor like Jason Boyle, or who else. There's a few people that, you know, can champion for your career. And what I like about this is that you're saying like, hey, I will help you with your career. We'll talk about we'll talk about confidence and clarity. You'll go through that stages, and I will nurture you in your career. And that's something that you can't really do on Instagram fully, like as you've done before. So I totally get and applaud why it's evolved, you know, and I think that's really important. And I think that's what I would love anyone to listen here to think about, is like, think about in terms of your career. It's like your career should be like the most important thing. And if someone can add value to your career and can push you on in the future, then that's probably worth looking into. And the fact that you've given away some of your spaces on your course for free while you're tweaking the formula, I think that's a fair trade, because the person that they're actually getting probably it anyways, but then actually what you're doing is that you're saying like, hey, you help me develop this a little bit and you get the fantastic course. So anyone listening, do you think those spots will be gone next week, Gabriel, or will there be one or two left?
I've really closed it actually, but
you were too late, everyone. Too late. But the lucky ones already there who already have it will have had a great ride. I think that's amazing. So, what's your plans with the course? How long does the course last for, and when will be the next wave of the course?
The idea is that there is a membership program that is 1 year. Next year I'll open again, but the idea is that there'll be a monthly workshop that anybody can join. So if you missed out the membership program, you can just join on the workshop. and it's not basically you can actually watch the workshop or even join the active part of it. And the idea is that you won't be left out in a way. I think the whole strategy in content for me is going to change. I think previously it was like doing the Instagram first, and also learn from Gary Vaynerchuk, for example. The video content is very important, and you can actually break it down into sub content. So the workshops are, I think, a key asset for me to conduct the workshops and also to break down the content and to share it after the event, like through Instagram, a bit of free content, just to gain that trust, and also maybe through the content portal on the membership program. Like a summary of what I've talked about. I think it also makes it easier for me as well to not to worry too much about content creation. Yeah, it's just spoken live, and it is on video, for example, and also in text. So I think that'll be a very interesting new perspective of like content creation for me.
Brilliant. I think, okay, that's really cool. So we've got all that now, and I love the fact that you're there, because you mentioned in the MadCon. So for anyone that doesn't know about the Mad Collective, you're kind of like one of them super bands, right, of like Instagrammers, so you've got like Bono from U2 and, the Rolling Stones from here, and you've kind of all set up as like the super ensemble, yeah? And so the MadCon was basically, it was on the Architecture Social as well. It was super fun to have it there and super fun to have you in our Zoom groups and all that stuff. But for anyone that missed the MadCon in particular, so you did one or two classes in there. And so that was interesting because it sounds like that was a little bit like a demo, or like you testing what would work or wouldn't for yourself. So, I mean, what was your courses there? And then what did you think worked and what is incorporated in your next, in the current course?
Yeah, so actually it's also quite interesting because I did two types of classes. So one was under the aliases of Alobok. The other one was under the alias of Alogus.
Okay.
So the interesting thing is I enjoy both kinds of classes. One was a bit technical, but it was a collaboration between I think four content creators for studio sessions. So actually we ran a studio, which is quite intense. I did enjoy it, but it's very tiring and a lot of things to take note about, especially doing studio sessions. People need to be involved, like what we talked about earlier. They have to be invested with the whole program. And we did encounter a lot of technical issues and things like people dropping out of the course. So that is things that I would take back with me. And with regards to the art logger side, I actually did a demo, like what you said, a demo workshop for free, and basically to showcase what I'm going to do in a way, like the whole framework, the teaser framework, and also to launch the whole membership program. So that was at MadCon itself. And I think the response I got was quite positive, even though it was nobody knew who I was in terms of the art logger side of things. And I actually enjoyed that because I don't feel that pressure in a way. I don't feel that pressure to worry about what people would think about it. And I did get some positive responses, so that really got me thinking about how can I continue this format of workshops and to put it out there to get more traction and traffic.
Yeah, I think it's great, and so I mean, it was fun to have that on the MadCon. It's always good to learn, and I think that's the important thing, is that you're not saying you're Superman. I'm the same. I'm constantly learning, and I think that what's interesting about these courses, and similar thing with the Architecture Social. I tell you what, sometimes I like a really good example. Okay, is that we had on the Architecture Social a competition, Gabriel, and it was a competition where it was a month long, and so this fantastic chap on the Architecture Social Hub set it up, and it was you learn Revit, okay, and you have a project and you have to submit all these drawings and technical details, and at the end you win like a book, like a £50 book. And what was interesting is I thought for sure, I was like, this is the coolest competition ever because we're going to learn Revit, all this stuff. and no one entered.
Mm.
Right. And so I'm constantly learning myself what works and what doesn't. And
Mm.
what's really interesting is that when you're talking about, it would be interesting that I think like the ethos of what you're talking about on like confidence and clarity will stay, and the course and all that. Of course, it will be there in some shape or form. But what's really interesting is that these ideas change over time, and that's what's interesting. Like you talked about, is that you learned from the course, and then you adjusted it, and it's interesting because the bit that your course has and the architecture social has and everything else is that it all relies on conversation, or it all relies in participation and conversation. So like the architecture social is only as good as the members in it, the content that they're talking about, participating, asking questions, and then the moment it stops, it's just me posting in there in a room like "hello," and it's like nothing, and nothing happens. So I think it's quite exciting, but keeping that conversation going is always a challenge, and I'm always surprised. So it would be great as well if we can catch up in maybe, who knows, a few weeks or a month's time, or we always speak, but it would be good to know where your course is at, and you can let me know your findings as well. What I'd love to talk about, one or two things before we leave it here, because I know you're busy designing military secret agent bases and evil geniuses layers somewhere, as well as doing the course. But it's a tricky time for many right now, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. So in the UK, we're hopefully going back from lockdown, and I'm sure there's lots of people in the world, whoever's listening, wherever they're listening, where we're just getting out of the awful era of coronavirus. Hopefully it doesn't come back. Hopefully it keeps going on the down. But is there any particular immediate advice you would offer someone that is not feeling confident or doesn't have any clarity right now? So nothing like the course, but like a little bit of your insight. Is this a good time to, pick up things and keep working? Is there any particular advice you'd have for someone just to get going?
Definitely. So I can share a few little tips and teasers for
Tip and
obtaining clarity.
teasers.
Yeah. I think myself, we're in Singapore right now. I think we've really been through what you're going through now. We've been under lockdown for 3 months, I think. Way earlier than you were. So right now we do enjoy the fruits of our labor in that sense. So yeah, we're living quite healthy lives, I think, right now. Everyone's out and about in Singapore, which is great. With no worries, kind of. So I think, yes, it's going to be the light at the end of the tunnel, no, for sure. I think since you're following how we done it under lockdown for a few months, and then things got better. It get better. Yeah, and I think contact tracing is very important. So don't worry about it. And if advice in terms of clarity and confidence, I think, so I'll actually start the clarity process by ourself first. So it's, when we talk about self, so only by knowing our self-awareness, only then we can actually understand our career clarity and eventually our life clarity. So it starts with our personality and what makes us happy, our habits and routines, like how do you feel in the morning when you wake up. Being aware of all these things is very important, especially when you want to think about taking certain steps in your career or in your life. So let these feelings and emotions guide you along the way. When you do certain things, like say for example, you're doing your work at home, for example, how do you feel about it? Do you feel tired, or do you feel there's still things to learn and it's exciting? So having that self-awareness is key. And I think one thing to do is actually to have a mental note about it every day. Ask yourself questions at the end of the day, especially before you sleep. So there's things about, did I do something good today? What did I achieve? How can I improve tomorrow? And that's about it. Actually, you need to think about these three questions. And life is always changing, always growing. So be comfortable with change also. So being all these, having a mindset is very important. And I would love to share more, but I think that's about it. Don't bore you guys too much about it.
Yeah.
It's
I
it's a
don't think
little
that's
bit
boring.
about
Yeah, you've done what I think it's interesting, but
there's some analogies that I want to bring out in terms of like my next workshop is coming up. It's titled Discovering Your Architectural Flavor. So you think about flavor, you think about ice cream, right? Ice cream is a lot of different flavors, and this is how we are all made up. We're all individually unique and special. So we have to be comfortable with ourselves first. That's also part of the self-awareness.
Yeah.
And eventually leading to clarity and then leading to confidence. So there's a certain chain of events that will happen if we fully engage in taking time to understand ourselves truly.
I think it's brilliant. I think, look, what you're doing is great, and I quite like that, the concept of flavor and taste, and that building up architectural taste definitely takes a lot of time. So, look, I think this is amazing. I'm conscious I've got, and this is one of the things of working at home, isn't it? You get Argos, I've got my Argos deliveries in the background. That's what the noise is going on. But hey, listen, this is super, super cool. I've loved some of these concepts here. The point is, though, is that people should check out all the stuff you've done. So immediately, if someone wants to get a little taste of what you've done previously before hiatus, they can check out the Arc Log book or Arc Loggers on Instagram. That's probably an easy way to start, because then they can get in contact with you. They can find out your details. But for anyone else that wants to say hello or wants to ask more questions, you are on the Architecture Social, so someone can drop you a message there. They can get in contact quite easily. But where else can we find you, Gabriel, online at the moment?
Yep, so either the Instagram, Art Loggers, or even on LinkedIn, you can just search Gabriel Chek. I think you should find me somewhere. If you follow Architecture Social or To Scale from Sana, the Mac Collective, I'm there.
You're everywhere. You're everywhere.
Yeah. If you even search Telegram, you can still find my name. I think you can search for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's why you're on Telegram. It's because your military background. It's all encrypted. That's why you're super, super high up on security. But hey, it's nice to know that people on your course won't have their data everywhere. So brilliant. I think this is amazing. People can track you out. I admire what you've done. I always felt that your graphic design in particular on Instagram, just so you know, is one of the best I've seen. I've always liked your fonts, but obviously it's not just about your graphic design. The content is great as well. It'll be really interesting to see how the course develops, and it's really good to have you in the Architecture Social community. So thank you so much for your time, Gabriel, and we'll catch up again soon.
And thank you to you too.
Hey, no problem. Take care now, mate. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Yay, well done. It's really good.